The holidays have a funny way of slowing things down for us and speeding things up all at the same time. There's food on the stove, friends at the door, and family around the table. And somewhere there, a drink needs to get poured. Today, we're talking about holiday drinks, the way they actually show up at home, simple, thoughtful, meant to be shared. I'm Chef Jonathan Frazier, and this is the Edible Valley Podcast. Welcome to the Edible Valley Podcast.
We want to invite you as we embark on a culinary journey through the heart of Vancouver Island.
From the fertile fields
to the pristine waters of the Pacific Ocean.
We'll explore the stories behind the food that nourishes us.
Tune in to each episode as we deep dive into the flavors, the traditions, and the innovations that make this a true paradise.
Now please join us as we explore our Edible Valley. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Edible Valley Podcast. If this is your first time listening, this podcast is all about food, community, and the people and places that make eating, drinking on Vancouver Island so special. Today's episode is a solo one. It's a cozy one. So if you're driving, cooking, or already thinking about that first drink of the night, you're in good company. Full disclosure, remember, drink responsibly. As we're getting into the holiday season, with most of us, that means gathering around the table. Sometimes it's a big table, sometimes crowded table. And tables where squeezing one more chair in and pretending it's totally fine works. Did this the other night up in Cumberland. Friends, family, neighbor, we don't often see. And occasionally peoples we see way too often this time of year. And today I want to talk about drinks. Not those flashy cocktail drinks with the smoke and mirrors, but the way drinks actually show up at our homes during the holidays. A glass poured while someone's cooking, a drink handed to a friend the second they walk through the door, something warm in your hand after a cold walk or a long day, or a day up on the hill where you're trying out your new gear for the first time. This episode isn't about showing off. It's all about hospitality and comfort. And it's about choosing the right drink that sits nicely at the table with the food and the people we love. All right, I'm a chef and I've been one for a very long time. One thing I'm learning is that the holidays are supposed to be about slowing down and, appreciating what we have. Now, do they always? No, but that's the idea. This isn't about summer patio season. It's not about crushed ice or drinks you need sunglasses to look at. Holidays are about warmth, familiar flavors, maybe a little nostalgia, and honestly, not having to think too hard once your guests arrive. When friends and family are over, I don't want you to be stuck behind the bar making individual drinks all night. I want you to be part of that conversation. I want you to eat. I want you to sit down. And really, I don't want you to be washing shakers till midnight. So the goal is simple. Choose drinks that support the moment, not steal the spotlight. So let's get into holiday cocktail mindset. The biggest shift with winter and holiday drinks comes down to intention. Holiday drinks tend to be, let's say, slightly richer, slightly spicier, and often, usually a lot more relaxed than people expect. Certain flavors just belong at this time of year. I want you to think about it. Cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, star anise. Think about, orange peels, lemon, maybe some grapefruit. And of course, I always love maybe honey, maple, bitters, maybe a little bit of vermouth, right? As a chef, I want to care about mostly is balance, right? Like I really want these things just to balance nicely in the palate. Because if you're already got rich food on the table, roasted vegetables, braised meats, a rich cheese board or dessert, your drink doesn't need to be heavy, sweet, and boozy, right? It's really about something you're going to share with everything. Sometimes the best holiday drinks is the one that keeps people comfortable, laughing, and talking. Not the one they remember for knocking them over halfway through the dinner, right? It's about keeping it nice and simple. Because two holiday tables are never the same, let's think about some different styles, and I like to think about some simple recipes that keep us going. Sparkling and aperitif style drinks, right? These are always my go-to when people first arrive. I always like to share a little bit of sparkling wine with maybe a splash of cranberry or citrus, a simple vermouth, or maybe gin and soda, keeping it very light and refreshing. They work because they wake up the palate, they don't fill you up, and they pair beautifully with snacks. So if we're talking a cheese board, maybe some smoked salmon, nuts, olives, charcuterie, just a nice way. These Austrian drinks also say, you're welcome here, take your coat off, the kitchen's warm. Now, as the night goes on, I like to think about getting a little bit richer. I like to shift gears a little bit, and that's maybe we're going to get into maybe doing some nice whiskeys, some rums, some nice aged spirits, something that's going to warm you up inside, right? So I'm thinking old-fashioned style drinks. Nothing too sweet. They pair really beautifully with some maybe braised meats or some mushrooms. From a chef's point of view, if there's fat and umami really comes into play, it will really brighten up here. So bitterness cuts through richness, oak and spice echo what's happening on the plate. It's not about intensity, it's about harmony when you're thinking about putting these dishes all together. The other one I want to think about is a third one, and this part matters more and more every year, right? We want to have some lighter and maybe some non-alcoholic options. Not everyone wants to drink a strong drink. Some people have to drive. We need to be responsible, right? Some people like to pace themselves because they know they get out of hand a little bit, right? Some people just don't drink at all. So let's keep that beverage options open for everyone. A good host means, good hosting means that everyone feels included and everyone feels part of the evening, right? So working on having some non-alcoholic spirits or some warm cider, maybe a warm eggnog. Those drinks just bring everyone together. When these options feel intentional, nobody feels that they're missing out, right? So there's an option to add in some alcohol or just go non-alcoholic, right? There's nothing wrong with that. When we're talking about having cocktails in this time of year, I think it's really being inclusive and getting everyone around the table. All right, so I want to give you a couple tips for hosting as a chef here. So I'm going to throw the full chef's hat on right now. If you're hosting friends and family, my biggest advice is always decide your drinks before people arrive. I just want to really emphasize this, right? Think about what you're going to have prepared ahead of time. I've made this mistake before where I'm like, I'll just make what everyone wants. No, have a couple options right there. People are pretty easy. If they have their own specific drink, they're going to go to it. But if you have a couple options there, they may just dive in there. And especially if you make them a little bit lighter, as I'm saying, having that nice sparkling wine when someone shows up, that just gets them feeling inclusive, or, a warm toddy, right? There's lots of different options there. So make sure you have your drinks. Think about having one lighter or a non-alcoholic option, because we want to have everyone feeling really inclusive. The other thing we want to look at is doing batching, right? Making sure you have everything set up, prepped, ready to go. Maybe label your bottles, some pre-mix and stuff like that, so you can do it all at one time. I also like to think about prepping your garnishes, making sure you have all your garnishes ready so that, those little bit of garnishes just add something to every meal. Because once guests arrive, your job isn't just to be a bartender, right? It's to be the host. So thinking about having, citrus peels and herbs doubling as decorations sitting there ready to go. Warm drinks means there's less refills, so having a nice cider or a nice hot toddy makes it a lot easier for people just to get around. It's going to strike up conversations right there. Keeping simple flavors and keeping it food focused, right? Having stuff that pairs really well with the food. And remember that nobody remembers the perfect drink. No one's going to leave your house and go, oh my God, that cocktail they made was absolutely incredible. What they're going to remember is how they felt like in your home, how they felt included, how they had such a good time talking with everyone, and they're going to remember all those fun times. And that's what you want to send people home with. You don't want them talking about that one drink. You want to feel like they feel included, right? All right, let's get through some quick ones. What's my favorite holiday spirit? I'm going to say that bourbon's one of my favorites, and I don't know why. I always spin to rum as well, too. You know what? And, it's all in, moderation, of course, here. Now, of course, bourbon's one of those ones that being Canadian, we're kind of getting away from. So, looking to some of our local distilleries and seeing what they're coming up with is always a big one. And especially this time, I have something in my heart for Krupnik from Wayward Distillery. And not to downplay any of the other distilleries. It just has a real connection for me from my ice cream days. Best drink to bring to a potluck. Well, I always think potluck, you know what, maybe going something with a little bit lighter, maybe a vermouth, maybe a cider, sparkling wine always work really well for there. One ingredient I always like to have on hand when doing cocktails. I love to have bitters available. It's really nice to throw into a cocktail. It fixes a lot of problems. If it's just not right, sometimes it'll balance it out and just amplify some of those other flavors. And of course, sweet or savory holiday drinks. What's your go-to? Savory first, sweet later. It's always a good mix. Start with something savory, finish off with something sweet at the end. It'll always end up with a beautiful day. Well, okay, so we're coming to the end here. I want to thank you for joining in with me today. It's been very nice talking to you. And at the end of the day, I want you to remember that holiday drinks aren't about trends. They're about slowing it down, sharing your space. You know, I always like to say, let's support our local producers out there and enjoy the people around your table. Whether a simple glass of wine, a warm hot toddy, or something non-alcoholic, the best drinks are the ones that bring people together. Thanks for spending a bit of your holiday season with me. If you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the Edible Valley podcast. Let's get out there. Let's help support our local farmers, producers, and distilleries. I'm Chef Jonathan Frazier. Thanks for listening, and we'll be seeing you around the table at the Edible Valley podcast.